This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode of All Time 11 right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host again this week. Delighted to be joined by the former Clyde, Dumbarton, Mirren and Ayr goalkeeper, John Hillcoat. John, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, mate. Thanks very much for coming on.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks.
How you doing?
Thanks for inviting me.
No problem at all.
I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm absolutely good. Yeah, no issues at all. Obviously, just went into lockdown again. You know, this afternoon, so it's going to kick in on Friday, obviously. So it's kind of unprecedented times. Everybody knows that, So we're just getting on with it the best as we can.
No, it's crazy times. But what was your kind of best memories when your career? Obviously, a long and storied career playing football at the goalkeeper position. What was your kind of best memories of your career?
Yeah, well, when you think about it, I started in 1987.
Yeah.
I went from school straight into St Mirren as a YTS. It was 8 days and it was YTS. You probably not remember that, Scott, to be fair.
I've heard all the stories. Every player said it was the best time of their life.
Well, it was unbelievable. But some of the stuff that used to happen back then, you just wouldn't get away with it now.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing about it. Some of the stuff that used to happen in dressing rooms was incredible, to the point that you couldn't actually repeat it on air or talk to anybody about it because they would go, fucking hell, what's all that about? So you just want to get away with it. But I started off at St Mirren, and I was very lucky when it comes to that, because St Mirren won the cup that year. They won it in May. Yeah. So I've went to school, this wee guy, wee snotty-nosed guy, leaving Linwood High School and going straight into a dressing room with guys like Frank McGarvey, Ian Ferguson, Campbell Money, Tony Fitzpatrick and stuff like that, And I think I was probably... Paul Lambert was the first YTS guy there, and he had then just been made a pro. Right, and then it was guys like myself and Joel Shaw and stuff like that then came into the YTS at that time.
Yeah.
So you're thinking you're starting your career and you're sharing a dressing room with these guys, albeit getting absolutely bullied the life out of these guys. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? It was those things were, the major man the other day, actually. But and then 6 months later, St Mirren winning the cup. I had nothing to do with the team, obviously, but what I was packing the strips and making sure that all the players were ready for it when it comes to other gear and stuff like that. And then obviously still training with the goalies at the time. So it was that was a really kind of colourful start to my career. From there, and you think it's just going to be a natural progression for there. You think, oh well, you're just playing my club, you just won the Scottish Cup. All right, what's next?
Yeah.
So, and that was my kind of mindset at that time. However, 20 years on, then that that's not the case. Obviously, because there's loads and loads of lows, and just a wee bit of highs. I can remember being at Clyde and George McCluskey said to us, he played at a right good level, Celtic and Leeds, and then he came to Clyde at the end of his career. And he said to us, football is 80% lows. He says, but for the 20%, it's worth it.
Definitely.
And that kind of stuck with me throughout my career. And I went, he's right. Because that's a roller coaster, and it's but it's one of these ones that that you take the chance with.
Definitely. But we'll make a wee start. This is the team the players you played with. We'll do that with the players you played against. But have you got a formation in mind, just first and foremost?
I have. It's going to be. Hold on, put my bins on here, right? Pound at the pound shop. I've set it up as a 4-4-2.
Right, okay.
Now, bear in mind, Scott, I played with 15 clubs, right? So if you do your maths, then that's a lot of players.
Definitely.
So there's going to be a lot of the guys who I played with are going to be disappointed. Going, no bother, Hilly, I can't believe I'm on your team. So my goalkeeper to start would be, I just kind of touched on it there, it's going to be Campbell Money.
Okay.
Now, Campbell was the Scottish Cup goalkeeper in 1987, and he was voted St Mirren's best ever goalkeeper. But he was an absolute diamond to me. When I was just starting out in the game, you need somebody who is going to take you under your wing, who's going to show you the ropes. And Campbell did that for me. He was absolutely brilliant, to the point that now, 30 odd years later, he's one of my best mates, to the point that I call him Fader. you know. So
right,
that's the
okay.
kind of relationship I've got with him. I remember one time.
Did he sign you for? Sorry to interrupt. Did he sign you for Ayr?
He did. Aye.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to come on to that. He signed me for Ayr, and he got the bag, and then he signed me for Steny, and he got the bag as well. So he blames me. so he blames me for his halting career when it comes to management. But no, I can remember one time we used to pack the bags and used to pack the gloves and boots and stuff like that for the first team, and used to pack the hampers on a Friday. And it was pretty stressful because guys like Campbell, they would say to you, remember, pack my goalie glove bag. I need my goalie glove bag for them. You would say, right, okay, no problem, I'll not forget that. He was going to Tannadice one time, and I woke up 5 o'clock in the morning, lying in my bed, and I said, shite, I forgot Campbell's glove bag. In the days, you couldn't hear like mobile phones and stuff like that. So the hamper went to Tannadice. Campbell opened up the hamper, and there's no glove bag. So I had to borrow Big Billy Thompson's goalie gloves. Big Tom was a size 11 hand, and Campbell was a 9. Right, so I had to play this game right, like Coco the Clown with these big gloves on. You could imagine coming back on the Monday when I went back into training on Monday morning, what happened to me because I forgot his gloves. You know, he ran me around the track. You know, and believe me, I never did that again.
But as you said about YTS as well, did you just feel was he just like a brilliant mentor for you? Did he just improve you as a goalkeeper? Yeah.
Totally. You know, because I was a late developer as well when it came to football, right? That's what I was going to say. So I never actually trained. I've watched some of your podcasts and hear Marco and these guys talking about, you know, they trained with Dundee United and they trained with Rangers and Celtic when they were all young. Yeah. I never trained with any senior clubs. You know, I played with a team called Renfrew Waverley, who had brilliant players, guys like Stevie Fulton there, we had Danny McGill. What these guys, Danny McGreevy, they'd all signed for senior clubs at that time, for them. Yeah. You know, so but I hadn't signed anything. So I thought I'd kind of missed the boat. And then Campbell came to training. He came to Renfrew Waverley's training, and he took me for a couple of sessions. And behind the goal, when you run out the tunnel left hand side, it was called the Rangers End. Well, that's what I called it. So that's where we trained on a Monday night, and it was myself and Big Craig Nelson, who were kind of going head to head to see who was going to, you know, get the YTS slot for the goalkeeping. And I was smaller then, and I was less weight than Nelly. But at the end of the day, Campbell chose me to go in. He spoke to Alex Smith, who was the manager at the time, and he chose me to go in full time. So, you know, I'm forever indebted to you know, that for me was the start of, you know, a career. Definitely. You know, a career, not the career, a career, because at the end of the day, that's what it was.
Brilliant. We'll move on to right back. Who's in there?
Yeah, well, a guy, again, absolute legendary guy. I played with him at Dunfermline, and it was a senior pro at the time. He just came from Rangers. It was the time when Souness came.
Right, okay.
And he then, I think it was him and David Cooper, were asked to move, and it's Jimmy Nicholl was right back. So Jimmy Nick came to Dunfermline, and Rangers and Man United legend. Do you know what I mean? You don't get any better than that. But what a coach, you know, as a player. You know, it's not often you get players that coach you through games. You know, it was most of the reserve games I played with him because he was then coming to the end of his career. But I tell you, what an experience it was, and what an education for me. You know, playing with guys like Jimmy Nicholl at the back, he would basically tell you when to come for crosses, when you did come for crosses, if you did come for crosses, then what he was going to be doing. So you had that safety valve. If you're coming for a cross, you know Jimmy Nicholl's going to go on the line. You know, so, and he was a great guy as well. Some of his stories are absolutely incredible. He asked the boys one time to paint his house. You know, he was going down to Manchester again. He was going down there for something. And in the days, the young boys was wee Stuart Gallagher, who was a striker. Wee Jackie McNamara was just coming through the ranks. Yep. And there was a couple of other guys. And what they did was, Jimmy gave them the keys to the flat. It was in, I think it was South Queensferry, I think it was. And Jimmy gave them the keys. So they did. They painted the flat, but they got a carry out and they get molasses back and all that kind of stuff, right? And you can just imagine what happened. So Jimmy came back on a Monday, Tuesday, and went, "Oh, boys, you did really well. That's a really good job you've done." You know, so thanks very much. Paid him and all that, gave him money and stuff like that. Then about 2 or 3 weeks later, Jimmy was moving a picture you know, like a photo frame. He's took it off. The boys had painted round all the mirrors and all the pictures of that in the house. Absolutely done him a kipper. He was raging, but that was just that's the kind of thing that Jimmy Nick got on. So on that position as well, I played with a wee guy called Craig McEwen, he was at Ayr and stuff like that as well. So he was at Clyde when I was there, and then he went to Sten. But you know, I think Jimmy Nick just has to tip me southie, I think.
Brilliant. But we'll move on to left back as well. Like,
right, okay. All right, okay. My bin's on again. Can't remember. All right. So left back was a guy I played with at Clyde, right? And we used to call him the Hoover, right? And his name's Big Keith Knox.
Right.
Big Knox stayed in Stranraer, and he obviously travelled 2 or 3 times a week to go to Broadwood. Now that's commitment for me, you know. Let alone how good a pro, you know. But for him to travel from Stranraer up to Clyde, up to Broadwood, and back down again 3-4 times a week was absolutely different class. And for being a part timer, he's probably one of the fittest guys that I've ever, you know, came across in my career. He was up and down that line like an absolute yo-yo. He was different class, really good defender as well, and is just a really genuine nice guy, you know. And I think he went on to manage Stranraer for there as well. I think
he did. Yeah, I think he did actually. Yeah.
Aye. But Big Knox, he was different class. There was absolutely no doubt about that. So he's my left back.
Brilliant. We'll move on to left centre half.
Yeah. Okay. Again, we've got a big guy called Milos Drzic. Right now, he played. Okay. He was a Yugoslav international, and he came to Dunfermline from Red Star Belgrade. Now, Ian Munro never saw. He was a manager at the time. Ian Munro never saw him play. He just got video sent for this agent, right? That's what he used to do in the days. He send you a video and we would sit and watch him. Obviously, it's going to be all the best clips, right? Because who's going to send shit videos, you know, somebody who's playing. So he came to Dunfermline, and I think he was probably one of the highest paid players there at that time. And what a left hook he had on him. It was absolutely, it was like an absolute wizard. But he never played a lot in the first team because, as Ian Munro said, he said he was actually too good to play in the first team because he used to try and like meg folk at you know, being last man, and he would dink balls into centre forwards, and when he hold it up, they would come back to him and stuff like that. So he wasn't suited to the Scottish game at that time. But what a defender he was! He was unbelievable. He was about 6'5", built like an ox, and he was just a really, really good lad. So he's my left centre half. I played with Big Scotty Walker as well. I played through my career with him as well. He was good. Big Scotty was a good centre half. He takes some stick, right? Because he's got a personality of a phone box, right? So at the end of the day, he's a good big lad, and you know, he's been a good steady pro, like, you know, all his career, which is great for him.
Brilliant. Who partners him in right side?
Right side is God rest his soul, Big Norrie McCarthy. Right. So when I made my debut for Dunfermline, I was 21. I made my debut against St Mirren, and just on that, actually, just talking about debuts, like as I said, about 15 clubs I've played for about 10 a day clubs, which is pretty mental. But that was it's absolutely nuts. I don't know why that happened. It was just obviously sheer coincidence. But Big Norrie, absolute legendary guy, you know, and I know you hear stories about him, you know, but you know how nice a guy he was, and he was just a genuine nice guy. The same kind of ilk as Jimmy Nicholl when you played with him, you know. He wouldn't get angry. He was just a young boy, get in really nervous, and he wouldn't get angry with you if you made a mistake. He's not one of these guys that would, you know, bollock you and give you pelters and stuff like that. He would just talk to you, right, it's all right, just go on with the game, you know, and that instills confidence for me. Yeah,
definitely.
And off the pitch, you know, we used to own a nightclub. Him and Winker Watson, John Watson was his partner, and the two of them loved each other, and they owned a nightclub and a pub in Dunfermline, and you could imagine the shenanigans that used to happen in there, you know. If you're off on a Wednesday, you were out on a Tuesday night and stuff like that, and then obviously into a Saturday. So, but Big Norrie, absolutely brilliant, you know. Can't say anything else about him.
I see, like players like Norrie, like see when you're kind of coming through as a goalkeeper, like how important is it to have that experience in front of you to kind of talk you through, as you say? Like, does it just make you feel as if you can take on the world?
Yep. It was imperative for me, you know, because I'm a kind of person who thrives in confidence, you know, and if I've got somebody who you think is going to give you pelters and stuff like that, then, you know, that's that didn't help my confidence during the game, you know. But I was quite fortunate when I was making my debut for Dunfermline, because I had guys like Neil Cooper as well. Again, no longer with us. He was absolutely brilliant. And Big Davy Moyes was there as well.
Right.
So
Okay.
Big Moyes, so he played centre half as well. So, you know, that was a kind of cohort. That was 3 or 4 really, really strong, experienced footballers, not just, you know, centre halves, footballers with probably hundreds and hundreds of games between them, you know. So I was quite fortunate that way. And I can remember when I made my debut, it was against St Mirren, as I said, but we played Stenhousemuir on the Tuesday. Big Lindsay Hamilton was in goals, and he threw a couple in, and Jockey Scott was the manager, and he was raging at him. So they were off on the Wednesday, and Big Moisey took me aside and said, look, go in, chat the gaffer's door, and just pop your head in and just say, Gaffer, how you doing? Just to let you know I'm ready for Saturday if you need me. And just walk out. And just walk out. So I was shite myself, obviously, you know. So I went in, chapped the door, and Jockey Scott's sitting there. And that's exactly what I said. And I walked out, and I played on Saturday. So that was a good bit of advice.
Brilliant.
To Big Moisey, you know. It was really, really good.
Brilliant. But we'll move on to the midfield. A great defence so far, but we'll move on to midfield. Who starts at right? Who starts at right midfield?
It's Stevie Ferguson, who is the chief exec at Ross County in a minute.
Yeah.
Now, I've known Fergie since 1989. He was a young boy at Dunfermline, and I could see back then that he was an absolute gem of a guy and of a player. Yeah. I played with him also at Ayr United and at Steny. So, in fact, it probably wasn't me who got Campbell the sack. It's probably him. I think back in it. Followed my career a bit as well. But Fergie is an absolute gem of a boy. I remember one time we were up north, we were in Inverness, and it was a pre-season, and you know, we all like the old karaoke and stuff like that. And Fergie's like, I don't really know what song to sing, you know, and blah blah blah. I was like, sing Saturday Night at the Movies, you know. I absolutely love that song. He's like, no, I can't do it. Anyway, I went up and done it. So come back down again, and then we lost each other. And then I was going into the hotel, and here's Fergie holding court in this hotel with all these old punters and stuff like that singing Saturday Night at the Movies. I was like, you bastard, you stole my song. I can't believe it. You know, but he's an absolute gem of a guy. And I could see as well that he was going to be a top manager and a top coach. And I think, you know, the position he's in now, I think he can go higher.
Right,
That's my personal opinion on Fergie, but a gem of a boy.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Mm-hmm. But who partners him in the left? Who's in the left midfield?
Wide left, I've got... Who have I got? Can't read my writing here. Boy who plays with St Johnstone, Liam Craig.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about left-footed players. This boy's, honestly, he's got an absolute wand of a left foot. Now, I never actually played with him, because at the end of my career, Derek McInnes was the manager of St Johnstone, and they needed backup when they were going for the Championship into the Premiership.
Yeah.
And I was coaching at Alloa, but I hadn't signed as a professional, so I hadn't signed a contract. So Dale said, look, I'll sign you as an amateur just for the last 13 games of the season. Come and sit on my bench, and you know, if we need you, then I can rely on you to go into the games. I said, that's absolutely fine. So I trained with Alloa during the week, and then went to the games on a Saturday to St Johnstone. And Liam Craig was warming up one game. It was at McDermott, and he absolutely ruined me in a warm-up. You know, he just singing balls all over the place. I can remember Dell and Tony Docherty, Dell's assistant, watching it going, fucking hell, I can't believe he just done that. Let's hope you don't need to play today, Hilly, because he's absolutely wrecked you. And I went, absolutely. So with him, but I've seen him playing as well, and I think he's a really good pro. You know, you can see he's played for years, you know, played at Hibs, obviously St Johnstone. Well, and, you know, for a boy to play at that level for a sustained amount of years, then he's obviously got to be a good player.
Definitely.
And it's a good lad as well.
Brilliant. We'll move on to left centre midfield. Yeah.
We have, again, it's a boy, it was at Dunfermline, it was István Kozma. He was a Hungarian international, absolute wizard of a player. He was actually too good. Again, he was too good to play for Dunfermline. I've got no idea how a club like Dunfermline could get a Hungarian international. to play for Dunfermline in the 80s. You know, he would be a really, really soft-spoken guy, really nice guy, and he wouldn't be training one day, and you say, "Where's this fan?" He's away playing for Hungary, and they're playing Sweden. You know, you're like, fucking hell. So, you know, 1 minute he's doing a Petrivi training in Dunfermline, and then he's away playing, you know, against some of the top international players in Europe. And then he'd come back, and you know, Dunfermline at 8 times, we never really had a lot of gear and stuff. All the young boys would steal all the best gear for their pros, and because this fan was quite quiet, you know, you would see him 1 minute he'd be playing against Sweden and playing against all the top guys, and he'd come back to our place and he's running about with a black sock on, with a red sock on, you know, running about like the training. You say, what's going on here? You know, absolutely mental. But what a player and what a guy, really, really nice lad.
And do like players like see like when like the likes of I'm playing like for a Hungary and that, like obviously the language barrier is an issue, but do they fit right into the kind of team spirit?
He was like, I mean, he loved the night out and stuff like that, but a dark horse as well.
Right.
So absolutely no problem. You know, he would be out, he would be, you know, we did fancy dress nights and stuff like that. He would be there all, you know, dressed up. But he was an absolute hero. He was an absolute legend, Dunfermline. You know, he couldn't go anywhere. Him and Big Leishman, you know, they couldn't go anywhere. No, fans absolutely adored him, and rightly so.
Brilliant. Who plays alongside him on the right side of centre midfield?
We have Billy Davis. So Billy, again, I was a young boy at St Mirren, and really, really good player. But I didn't actually appreciate how good a player he was until I went to Dunfermline, and he was there. Yeah. And you know that he was playing at the time when I was making my debut and stuff like that. Again, he was a really, really good help. Aye. And he was, you know, he'd come really deep, try to take the ball and stuff like that, and then ping the ball off to fullbacks and stuff, you know, and kind of give you a wee heart attack, you know. You're like, no, I don't want you to take the ball there, but you've got to have the trust in these guys that when you're giving the ball, that they're going to, you know, they're not going to lose it. Yeah. But I could see at an early age that he was going to be a top coach as well. We used to get, he stayed in Ralston and Paisley. Right. So at that time I was staying in Linwood. So I would in Renfrew, I would his house, and then me and him would take shots each with the car, and then we'd go to Glasgow, just at West End, pick up Big Davy Moyes and Scott Leach and wee Eddie Cunnington. So we're in the car, and Billy and Davy Moyes would stop off at the Little Chef at Cumbernauld before we would get through to Dunfermline, and you know, we're sitting having a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and these two guys are sitting over the table with the salt dishes out. You know, well, I think 3-5-2 and 4-4-2, and born absolute hell. It was like, come on. You know, let's talk about something else here, you know, but they were absolutely obsessive at things like that. And it bears fruit, obviously, by, you know, if that was the mentalities when they played, then, you know, it's no coincidence it became kind of like top managers in Britain.
Definitely.
The wee Billy's in there.
Brilliant. We'll move on to the striker position. Now, I think that you'll probably have played against some strikers that will put the fear in you, but who did you love to play alongside in the striker position? We'll start with the left side.
Left-hand side, I'll go for Eddie Annand. So I played with Eddie at Clyde, and at that time we got relegated for the first division, which was the Championship. We got relegated into Division 2, and Eddie could score. If he didn't score 20 goals a season, then it was a bad season for him. Yeah. You know, and that was the kind of. And he was a really, really good pro. And he went on to have a really decent career. He went to Dundee and he went to earn probably a few quid at those times. But Eddie was a brilliant striker. You know,
he's massively underrated, I think, as well. Like he was. He was a great finisher.
He was, and he could run in behind stuff like that. Yeah. Sometimes his touch, you know, like he couldn't hold the bank up with a gun, right? But that was just Eddie, right? But if you were having any issues, you could dink it in behind, and Eddie would go on it all day long. You know, so good player. But I mean, there's other boys that, you know, we played with. Stuart Gallagher, as I mentioned. Yeah. My mate Gordon Parks, who's now in the Daily Record. So, but you know, Parksy never played enough games. He took a really bad injury, broke his leg, and it's really unfortunate, you know. But Parksy, really, really good ability as well. But I'm going for Eddie.
Brilliant. And who partners him in the other side?
Again, it was his Clyde partner, and it was Charlie Nicholas. So when Charlie came, he came to us at the end of his career. He was at Celtic. He was still doing well, and we couldn't believe it. Actually, couldn't believe when Alex Smith came in and says, "Right, we just signed Charlie Nicholas." We're like, "What? You're paying us £200 a week? You're paying this guy what, £2,000 a week? What's all that about?" You know. So by all accounts, hearsay. I don't know what the crack was, but I heard through the grapevine that Charlie got bonuses. He got a win bonus, win, lose or draw. You would think a guy who's got that mentality, starting at a second division club, wouldn't bother his arse. But nothing could be further to the truth. He trained like an absolute beast every single day, no issues whatsoever. And then when he played, he played, you know, as if he was playing for Celtic, playing for Scotland. His attitude was magnificent.
Brilliant character. And brilliant character for the dressing room.
Great guy. You know, I remember one time at the Christmas night out, we went to Ingram Street. It was in Glasgow, and we had food. We trained in the morning at Broadwood, and then we went up the stair to Broadwood, and we got some food and stuff like that. And then we got all John Donnelly, who just died, by the way, who God rest his soul. He dropped us off in Glasgow in the minibus, and we all piled out of this minibus, right, and got some bevy, karaoke and stuff like that. And then it was about 3 PM. We came out to Ingram Street, we're going to other pubs, and we all did this kind of like conga, kind of Christmas conga, stuff like that. I thought out with our shopping and stuff like that. And here's Charlie Nick with his hair. It was the time when his hair was all long, you know, and he's leading the conga up Buchanan Street. Do you know what I mean? We've got all those minions, you know. You're saying to yourself, these people must have gone, who's that? Charlie Nicholas leading a conga there, you know, the 23rd of December. So, but honestly, what a guy, great lad.
Brilliant.
Superb.
It's a great team, and a team I would love to see. And I think they'll give them a game. But who can I miss as a cut? You've touched on a couple of players, but is there a couple that you just feel were unlucky not to make the cut?
Well, can I talk about my two gaffers? Right?
Gaffers, absolutely.
Yeah. So as I say at the top of the show, 15 clubs. You know, so I think I probably worked with between 20 and 23 managers. You know, some of them were duds, right? Don't get me wrong, absolutely right, coos, horses. But two gaffers who I thought were absolutely brilliant for me, and it was when I was at Stranraer, Billy McLaren, who was the manager of Stranraer, right? Now, Billy was one of the most mild-mannered guys I'll ever meet off the pitch. But see on it, honestly, it was absolutely mental. But I liked that, you know, because he was straight talking, you knew exactly where you are, and you knew if Billy didn't think you played well, then he told you that you hadn't played well, you know, and he's one of these guys. And he got my utmost respect for that, you know, and I saw him physically fighting with people as well, you know, which then shows you the passion of what he had, you know. It was absolutely magic. And another guy as well, who is now one of the top managers, is Michael O'Neill. Now, he came to be the manager of Brecon. What happened was Pink Campbell, Dick Campbell's brother, was a manager of Brecon, and we played Clyde at Broadwood, and I think it beat us 6-0. So Pink, and they asked myself and Paul Dees to take over as interim managers. I'd never managed before, you know what a clue. I could hardly keep the ball at the net, never mind manage. But anyway, that's just so myself and Deesy did that, and I think we did it for 4 or 5 games, and then it went to interview. And myself and Gary Boland, who was left back at the time, he says, "Look, why don't we go for it? You know, he's for the East, I'm for the West. If we get it, then I can look after West, he can look after East and North and stuff like that." So, okay. So we went for an interview. We did all right, but the board at the time said we've got somebody else to interview, and it turned out to be Michael O'Neill. So there's no lot you can say about that. You know, if you don't get a job because of a guy like Michael O'Neill, then you know there's no any sadness in that, because he's absolutely brilliant. And really good lad.
Could you tell then how good he would be?
His game knowledge was different class. He's a financial advisor. That's what he is. You know, that's what he is. So his first thing, we were all screwing expenses at the time, right? Which is, you know, that's just what we did. You know, we're kidding on. We're travelling up to Brecon, Montrose, you know, ourselves, but our cars are packed, right? It was like, you know, there was an anthill mob getting up to Brecon with 7 and 8 folk in your car, and we're all claiming different expenses. So when Michael O'Neill came in, he says, look, he says, I know more about money than I do about football, so I know exactly what he's doing. Stop it, and that was the fiddling of the expenses done. But what a manager, absolutely brilliant. He had wee Gareth Evans, well, that was his assistant.
Yeah,
wee Gareth, really good game knowledge as well. But really nice guys.
Brilliant. So that's the managers. We'll touch on quickly just a couple of players who just missed out.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the right centre half. Big Barry McLaughlin, different class player.
Yeah.
You know, I went to see him back in 2002 for the second time, and Big Trigger was the centre half with Scott Walker, and the two of them were talisman. They're absolutely brilliant. You know, real kind of hairy-assed, centre halves. You know, that's the way I would describe him. You know, he's known as St Mirren Hall of Fame, and there's no wonder. You know, so Big Trigger should be in there. Gary Boland, as I mentioned as well, left back, different class, plays at a really good level. And who else we got here? I played with a boy called Mark Smythe at Ayr, who was a young boy coming through, and Irish lad. He was really good player as well. However, his temperament. Sometimes he didn't know if he wanted to get sent off or not. And that was Smithy for you. But different class. And Endo, great left joke again, played at Raith Rovers, Ayr United, played an array of clubs throughout his career. But these guys are good, seasoned, really good pros, and they deserve to play for the length of years that they did play for.
Brilliant. John, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the show, and I can't wait for this to go out and everybody to see how good the team is. Thanks very much.
That's fine.
Pleasure. Cheers.
No problem. Thanks for that. Cheers, Scott. Cheers.